welcome to Fresh Ideas with AgeWell. My name is Carrie Batras. I am the Wellness and Nutrition Coordinator for AgeWell.
And I'm Brigitte Harton. I'm a dietitian with AgeWell.
And so we are here to do some great recipes today, and we're going to feature tofu and seitan. And I know everybody has lots of feelings about that. You may love it and are cooking with it and think it's fabulous. You may think, I don't want anything to do with that. I think it's weird and I don't want to have anything to do with it.
You may not have tried it before too, so.
Absolutely. Or you may have tried it and then like, I don't know, I'm still on the fence.
And some people don't know how to prepare it, so there you go.
Yes, so we're gonna tackle all those issues today. We're gonna do two different recipes. I'm gonna start with a very simple tofu stir fry. So that's something that we've all, I think, had in the past. We've had stir fries with chicken, with beef, with all different types of ingredients. But this one I'm gonna feature tofu, which I think is such a great way to have a non-meat based meal that has high protein, good flavor, incorporated with your veggies and your rice.
Right, perfect. And yeah, so tofu, great source of protein. It is a complete protein as well. So, you know, you can't go wrong there. Very easy to prepare, as you'll see today. So enjoy.
Yes, we're gonna get started. So I first want to give a huge thank you to City Market. This is the beautiful kitchen that we're in with all of this beautiful food product that we get to use. So we get to come in here, get the items that we need downstairs with their hot bar and their bulk section and their beautiful produce, and we get to cook with all these amazing ingredients. So I want to do a big thank you. Love cooking here. All right, so I'm gonna start with, I have my burner and I have my wok. You don't have to use a wok, but you do wanna have a heavy non-stick pan to do your cooking with, because everything is gonna go into this pan, which is a great thing. Again, if you wanna get a wok, woks are fabulous. You don't have to just use them for stir fry. You could use them for anything you want. It's just quick. The heat is transferred evenly throughout it, so it's just a fast way to get a great meal.
And you know the best thing? Only one pan to clean.
I know, I love that. One pan, so you're not doing multiple dishes. Although in my house, I always have multiple dishes, and that's the big complaint is that, Mom, why do you use all these dishes? Did you like the food? I have to use all these dishes. So I'm gonna start with that. I'm gonna have my pan nice and hot. I'm gonna use canola oil, because canola oil, when you use this, has a lower heat temperature when you're cooking, so that your food isn't going to cook so rapidly. So it's important to use this when you're doing something on a high heat like a stir fry, is that you're not going to get that rapid cooking like you would if you use an olive oil. So you want to do canola oil, grapeseed oil.
Yep, and you know, canola oil is similar to olive oil in its fat content. So it has a lot of monounsaturated fats, which is a better heart health fat. Yes. But you're right, using a high temperature, canola is going to do better than olive. But as far as the nutrient contents, very close. So
absolutely, and that's what we want to focus on, the nutrient content. We want to get as much nutrients into what you're eating that is going to be healthy, that's going to be nutritious, but also really delicious. And I want to focus on things that you probably already have in your house, so you're not having to go out and buy all these ingredients that you're not sure what you're going to use with them. Because I think that's a big piece of it too, is a lot of recipes you look at and you think, oh, I want to make this, I want to do all these things, but oh, I don't know what this is, or I don't have that in my kitchen, and now that I have it, what am I going to do with it? Yeah. So I really want to focus on stuff that we already have, and maybe just use it in a different way.
And you know, oftentimes too, like for example, today you're using mushrooms. If you don't have mushrooms, you probably have some kind of vegetable in your fridge you can use instead. So this is a great recipe to kind of clean up the fridge and reduce food waste and save money.
Absolutely, right? I love that. And this, again, with stir fries, it's like you're going through your refrigerator, you're going through your freezer, and you're like, what do I have? I got a little bit of broccoli, I got some carrots, I got some mushrooms, I got some celery. Whatever that is, you can add anything in here. I kept it really simple. I'm just doing mushrooms and some baby spinach. But again, whatever you want to pile in here, the more you put in here, the better it's going to taste and the more nutritional value you're going to get. So load it up. So we have the tofu that I have, what I'm going to use today is from the hot cold bar downstairs at City Market. So you can just pick it up. It comes put in this beautiful box. It's already seasoned. It has everything that you need. Ready to go. Great flavor. So I'm going to use that to start with. So I'm going to add my tofu to my hot pan. And again, I don't want to add a lot of flavor in this because I already have, but you just want to start this to get this cooking. And what you're going to want to do is just kind of move it around the pan, but let it sit, because you're going to want to let it brown on both sides, which I think is really important. If you are not getting this type of tofu, you're gonna buy the packaged tofu. Or you can buy the tofu that comes in bulk here at City Market, which is great too. You can use that in different ways. So we're gonna let this go. I've got my soy sauce here that I'm gonna use for my flavoring. And again, I'm just gonna not add a ton of this because I already have this seasoned, but you just wanna get that flavor.
Right. And you're using soy sauce. So this one is the regular soy sauce.
Yes.
But you can, if you're concerned about salt, because soy sauce can be high in salt,
Absolutely.
you can buy a low salt version. So
yes, and you can also use tamari if you wanted to as well,
okay.
Which is a version of that. But yes, if you are really thinking of low salt when you're cooking, any low salt version of that is going to help with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just going to let this kind of do its thing. I want to get as much flavor as possible as you're moving your tofu around, and you're going to keep this like on a medium to high heat. So I'm going to just turn this up a little bit more. I'm going to add my mushrooms to this because again, I'm not having to cook my tofu, that's already done. If you're going to do more vegetables, you're going to want to cook your tofu first, remove that from the pan, then do your veggies, then you're going to put your tofu back in.
Right. Right. You don't want it to be sitting there and overcooking, right?
Exactly. And again, if you're using broccoli, carrots, you're going to want to have those soften up a little bit. I'm not a big fan of mushy veggies. I like to have a little bit of bite and crunch on that. But again, the beautiful thing of this is that you can adjust that as you're going.
Whatever you
want to do. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm going to add my mushrooms in here. Again, the mushrooms cook fast. Notice I haven't added any salt or pepper, any seasoning except for what I had on my tofu and my soy sauce. And I think a lot, we talk a lot about when you're cooking to make sure you're tasting and seasoning your food as you go. And a lot of times you're going to have the salt and pepper measurements on your recipes. You're going to have the same thing with seasonings. And again, that's just a baseline. You can back off of that when you're adding your seasonings. You can add a little bit more, but I'm really encouraged to taste as you go because that's how you're going to develop that flavor and what you like, and can be mindful of adding more sodium.
Right, because a lot of the recipes are nowadays, call for a lot of salt, but you can, definitely reduce that. Salt is used as a seasoning, right?
Yes.
Unless you're, baking bread or something like that.
Right.
But if you're using it in a recipe like this, you're using it as a seasoning, so you can add oftentimes half of the amount. And then if you feel like you're tasting it throughout and it needs a little more, or you can also add different herbs and spices and things like that as well instead of salt. So
absolutely. And I think a key part of this too is that people also think of salt as being bad and I just need to avoid it completely. And that's not true. Salt does have an important role as far as nutritional value, but you do have to be mindful if you are on a low salt diet. But salt helps to enhance the flavor of food and to bring that out. So you do want to be mindful that it does have a very purposeful role in your cooking. So this is getting nice and bubbly. I don't know if you can see this here, but we're getting a little steam off here. We're getting some bubble. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my ginger. And so you can buy this lovely little ginger root here. This is downstairs in the produce section. And again, you're just going to grate it. So it's almost like a paste.
Yeah.
And then again, this stays in your fridge. You can add ginger to just about anything.
Oh, I love ginger.
I know, right? Sweet, savory, add it to your tea. Has so much nutritional health benefits. And it's just that the smell of it is just so clean.
Such a interesting boost of flavor.
Yes, I know. So I'm a little fan. I'm actually a big fan of ginger, so I don't want to add a little ginger. I'm adding a lot because it is a flavor I really like.
And when you're putting it in a stir fry like this, you're really blending that flavor into, the whole recipe.
Yes,
so
you're infusing
it. Really does bring a nice kick to it.
Absolutely, and you're just getting this meld of smells from the ginger, from the soy. Like it just is. This to me is a very warm and comforting aroma of soy and ginger, and it's just lovely.
Now, if somebody doesn't have fresh ginger in their house, is it okay to use the powder ginger?
You can use the powder, absolutely. And again, you probably want to go a little bit more with the powder. I find it's a much more diluted flavor, right? If you're using dried versus fresh.
Yeah,
but again, if you don't want to get a whole ginger root and feel like I don't know what I'm going to do with this, use what you have in your pantry. I'm a big fan of that. So I've got my ginger going. I'm going to I've got my minced garlic here. And again, if you want to, this is chopped garlic. It's a little wider on the chopping. If you want to use the minced garlic, that comes in the jars that you can get In the refrigerated section, you can do that. If you have a garlic press, go ahead and use that. I'm a big fan of actually chewing the garlic. I like that. I think more garlic is better. That's just my own personal preference. I like to be emanating.
Yeah, I know, it's awesome.
I don't mind that garlic smell, so I feel bad.
And again, lots of lots of health benefits to garlic. So
I know, there's so much. All right, so this is nice and brown and bubbly and lovely. So I'm gonna add my spinach to this. I have some beautiful baby spinach from Lewis Creek right here in Vermont. And again, so much of the benefit of living in the state that we live in is we have this unbelievable produce that comes out all throughout the seasons. And you know, when you cook seasonally, right, you're really obviously benefiting the farmers, but you're adding that diversity to your diet, which I think is also really key too.
Yeah.
Maybe you're using things you wouldn't normally use when you're cooking seasonally.
And if you're concerned about, your budget, aren't we all these days?
Yes.
If you buy local, this time of year is the best time.
Absolutely.
Because you get very nice fresh produce grown here, and it is so much more affordable.
Yes.
Now in the winter, you may not be able to find the nice fresh spinach, but canned and frozen fruits and veggies are just as nutritious, and they're very affordable. So keep that in mind.
And I think that's an important thing to bring up about cooking using frozen. I think sometimes frozen gets a bad rap. You think, it's not as good. Am I going to get the nutrients to it? You are going to get the nutrients. It is as good, and it's so budget conscious.
Exactly.
So if you are someone who doesn't want to have a lot of produce in your fridge, maybe you're cooking for one, maybe you're cooking for two, and buying all this produce can be overwhelming because then it's like, well, what do I do with it afterwards? I feel like it's too much. Frozen is a great way.
Yeah, because you just take what you need and tie the bag back up and put it back in the freezer and use it next time. So last a lot longer. And if you're concerned about the nutrient content, it does contain, maintain its nutritional value. So yes, very much nutritious.
Absolutely. And one other thing, when you shop at City Market, you can buy your spinach by the pound. You can buy your mushrooms by the pound. You can buy your tofu by the pound. So there's all these options of buying in bulk, which then again affects the cost, and you can have that be much more budget friendly because you can buy what you need at the time.
Exactly, and you don't have lots of leftovers. Although leftovers are great for stir fries.
I was going to say leftovers are great for stir fries. So that leads me to, I'm using rice. I already have my rice cooked, but again, if you have leftover rice, Chinese containers of that white rice, what do I do with that? This is what you can do with that. So you can use any kind of rice. You can use brown rice.
Yeah, brown
tell
rice.
me what you like.
Yeah,
about rice. I love it.
Well, you mentioned brown rice. Brown rice is a whole grain, so if you're looking for increased fiber, more nutrients, it's going to be a better bet. But again, if you have lots of white rice, and definitely use it as well. What was I going to say? Oh, what I like is that if I'm planning my meals ahead of time, and I'm cooking, some people think, cooking rice is a pain. Well, plan ahead. And if you're cooking a stir fry on Monday, cook a little extra rice, put the extra rice later in the week. You can use it in a soup. You can use it in a side salad or whatever the case may be. And that way you're saving time, you're saving money because you're going to use what you prepared. You don't have to rely on, like when you open the fridge, what am I going to make tonight? Oh, that's right, I've got my rice or my extra pasta I cooked on Monday, and I can use it in my stir fry today.
Absolutely. And actually, if you're going to do a stir fry, having day-old or 2-day-old rice is actually the flavor gets more infused in that rice once it sits versus right when you cook it right away. So I encourage you, make a big batch of rice, put it in the fridge, pull it out when you need it for your meals.
Right.
So what we have here, I added a little more spinach. I did add some sweet chili sauce. Again, if you want to do a really spicy, you're going to go with just a straight chili paste. And again, those are different grades that you can buy that will give you more heat, less heat. This will have a little sweeter component to it, which I chose that. I think that's pretty mellow. Everybody likes that. But if you want to kick it up with the heat, you can add some red pepper flakes. You can add some chili powder. You can add any type of hot sauce to this. So you can really make it to your liking as far as how much heat you want to have. So I'm going to do a quick,
very nice.
no, that's, I know, look at that. So I'm going to do a little taste with my tasting spoon, and I'm going to get my mushroom and my tofu and a little bit of spinach in here. Mmm.
Good?
So delicious. I'm getting like sweet. I'm getting a little bit of spice from my chili sauce, but I'm getting that lovely like depth of flavor with my soy sauce that's in there.
Ginger.
And ginger, exactly. And what I like about the tofu is that you don't get a mushy consistency. It's firm. It has a little bit of a bite to it. So it feels like you're getting something of sustenance. It doesn't feel like you're getting something that's mushy or too soft. It gives, and with your mushroom as well, like you just have like kind of like that little bit of bite. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to get my rice out. So again, I used just a standard white rice, which I have already done here. I'm going to put that at the bottom of my plate. I'm going to use my big spoon. And again, this is something that you could turn into actually a breakfast bowl if you wanted to, which I'm a huge fan of that. You could have this as your base. You could take a poached egg, you could take a hard-boiled egg, you could take a fried egg, put that on the top. You've got a runny yolk in there. You've got a breakfast already made that has your protein from your tofu. You've got some veggies in there. I mean, that's it. That's your meal.
Very nutritious meal.
I love it. So I'm going to be generous, right, with my scoops on top of here. I like to finish off with some fresh herbs, so I have some fresh parsley that I'm going to throw on top of here, but you could throw cilantro. You could throw mint if you wanted to on here. I mean, you can throw any type of fresh herb on here, but I just think parsley is just kind of that general one that goes with everything. And so I'm going to take my parsley that I already have diced up, and I'm just going to do that right over the top. And that's it.
That's great.
This is your stir fry. It has your protein, it has your veggies, it has your whole grains, it has everything you need. And again, throw an egg on top of that and you've got breakfast. This is a beautiful leftover. You can have this in your fridge for a good 4 days. Add more things to it if you would like, but that's it. There you go. Enjoy your tofu. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Fresh Ideas with Age Well. I'm so excited to talk about this because this is something that I don't think a lot of people either know how to use, have used, tried. So we're gonna do a fun little take on chicken Parmesan.
I'm so excited because I'm one of those. I didn't know about how to prepare this, so I learned something today too.
I love it. So what we're gonna use instead of chicken for our chicken Parmesan is seitan. Now what is seitan? Seitan is basically just straight up gluten.
So obviously, if you're gluten intolerant, don't eat this.
You're not going to eat this. But you could do this modified version probably with tofu. The texture is going to be a lot different because the beautiful thing about seitan is the texture is very meat-like, and so it has that chewiness, that kind of depth of flavor, but also texture that I think is really key when you're doing a substitute for meat and you like to have that texture. Yeah. Seitan is a great one to use for that.
Can't wait to try it.
Also, if you can't have soy, this is a great alternative for that.
So it is a protein, substitute. So if you're vegetarian or just want to try something different,
absolutely. And there is the pre-boxed version of seitan that you can buy. It also comes in different flavors. So I'm just using a traditional flavor. This one does have soy sauce and soy in it. So you just want to be mindful when you're looking to purchase it, if you do have a soy issue, to look to make sure that it doesn't have it. Also, the beautiful thing about City Market is that they have the seitan in bulk that's just straight up, it's gluten and water, that's it. And that's what I used for the cutlets. So it doesn't have anything added, and then you can add whatever seasonings that you want to it for whatever dish you're gonna do. I do wanna do a little plug. If you've never had, they have I think it's an SLT, which is instead of bacon, it's seitan. It's a take on a BLT sandwich down here, and it is so good, so good. So if you're looking for a BLT, but not the bacon, try the SLT. So, okay, what I've already done is I've taken the seitan, I've formed it into these little patties. I have breadcrumbs on them. I have oregano, onion powder, garlic powder, a little bit of salt and pepper. So I formed them into essentially which would be a chicken cutlet, added my seasoning. I baked these in the oven, greased pan, 400 for about 10 to 15 minutes. And again, you can adjust that. I want to get that crunch that you get when you have chicken Parmesan. At the end, I finished it with fresh mozzarella, which again, you can buy in bulk, which is lovely. You're gonna slice that up, into these nice slabs. I put it on top, I turn the oven off, put it back in there, you get your melted mozzarella on top of that. I added a little bit of fresh chopped basil.
Nice.
So this is ready to go. Very simple, very fast.
Sounds like a little bit like when you're making meatballs, but with seitan, right?
Absolutely, you could, and that's a great. You could make meatballs with your seitan. It has so much pliability and versatility. If you're buying just the straight up seitan with gluten and water that doesn't have any of the seasonings, but for something that's easy and quick, where you don't want to think about having to form that, that's where you're going to buy the box version. And there's a lot of different types of versions that are offered at City Market that you can choose from, which is great.
Awesome.
Yes. So I am going to use pasta as my base for this. You can use different types of pasta, which I think is really key to talk about. You don't have to use just like the standard pasta that we use. You could use how many different kinds? And then what's the nutritional benefit, Brigitte?
So we use today the plain white pasta, which is fine. But if you're looking for a whole grain where you're gonna have more fiber, definitely look for something like whole wheat pasta. For those of you who think, oh, yucky whole wheat pasta, they have changed quite a bit since they first came out, and they were a lot tastier and better, and they're so good for you. Or if you have a gluten intolerance, for example, where you wouldn't be eating the seitan, but you could use red lentil pasta. Excuse me. There's a lot of different bean pastas out there now, chickpea pasta, things like that. And they are gluten-free, they are high in fiber, of course, because they're from beans, but they also are higher in protein. So they're a nice all-around pasta to use. So yeah, so many different types.
I know, which is lovely. Again, if you are looking to add more into your diet and you want to have a little more versatility, there are ways that you can do that with pasta. And again, I think the big thing is, well, I'm not going to get the flavor. It's going to be weird. It's going to have this or that. And I think, playing around with those different types of pastas, again, buying pasta in bulk gives you that opportunity to try that, right? You can just get a little bit and like, I'm going to try this red lentil pasta. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be your new pasta and you love it. And you would thought, why did I wait so long to get the red lentil pasta?
Right.
But you do want to be mindful of the time that it takes to cook. Some of them, it's going to require a little bit more of the whole wheat pasta, maybe a little less if you like it al dente, right? You're going to want to be trying that as you go. So don't just set the timer and walk away, especially when you're cooking the different pastas, because I think it's really important to keep that in mind.
Right, definitely.
Yes. Okay, so we've got our pasta. I chose to use the Vermont fresh marinara that you can get here at City Market, or you can use jarred pasta sauce, or you can make your own pasta sauce. I think, again, if you're looking for something quick, easy, nutritious, I would choose these options because they're right there, they're easy to use. So I'm just going to basically now plate up this delicious sort of chicken Parmesan, but a different take on it. And again, you're just going to move your pasta right onto your plate. And again, you can decide how much you want to put on here. I really want to get the flavor of my seitan cutlets, so I'm just going to do a little bit of pasta. And then I'm going to take my beautiful seitan, and I'm going to put that right on top. And then I've already heated up my marinara sauce. So I'm just going to spoon that over the top. And again, you can be as generous as you want with this. If you like a lot of marinara sauce, load it up. Just gonna kind of swirl that around. If you have a dairy issue, you can get vegan mozzarella. You don't have to even use the mozzarella if you don't want. I feel like that gives it that chicken Parmesan flavor that if you're looking for, right, to pay homage to that dish, I think that's really important. I'm gonna add a little bit of grated Parmesan on top because I like cheese. So I'm not gonna be shy about the cheese. And then always, I have the fresh basil. I'm gonna dress that up with a little bit of my parsley. Right, look at this dish. So you would come in and be like, oh my gosh, chicken Parmesan. But is it chicken Parmesan? It's your seitan Parmesan that, again, is If you're wanting to get away from using a lot of meat and trying to do a more plant-based alternative, this is a great way to do it. This is a great meatless Monday meal. Here's the real test, right? I'm gonna give this a try. So I wanna get a good bite of my seitan with my pasta, with my mozzarella, with all my little yummy components. I'm gonna put it all in there.
That was a big bite.
That was a big bite. I have to give me a minute to do it. Again, you're getting that texture of chicken. I'm getting that meaty flavor in there. I'm also getting my cheese, my marinara, my pasta. I mean, just delightful. This isn't a heavy dish. It's very light, it's very flavorful. Again, one more thing you could do, if you want to saute up some mushrooms, peppers, and onions and throw that on top of there, go ahead, do it.
Oh, more veggies, right?
More veggies, more better. Enjoy.